Welcome to Mechs on Deck, episode 14. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about just the community in general, where it's been going, how it's been growing. Well, a little bit of rhyme
going
there.
and growing, going and growing. I like it.
But yeah. So, first, we've got quite a bit of a mail day. At least on my end. I know Chewy's got quite a few things as well. If you want to go ahead and start us off, Chewy.
Why not? No boards. Rip. I mentioned this on stream. I got some cables. Got them all finished up now. One's being used currently. This is grayscale with white. So, cool cable. Got working on the second try. So, not too shabby. From Halo switches, because you need them for Holy Pandas. Nothing special. But I am glad that now I have the Kale switch opener. From, I guess, is it AIO 3s?
Yeah, it is.
From KBDs, yeah. So that's like the double with the MX style and the Kale style, so no more stabby fingers. Couple more Trash Pandas just to round out 100 on mine, because I usually buy in 70s, but I have a TKL coming in that I'm probably going to put those in. And then last but not least, I got a wrist rest from Novel Keys. So we were talking about this just before the show started. Honestly, so I have, I use wrist rests. I have a few that I have tried. I've got the GMMK one that my wife is using at the moment, and it has a little kind of a harder edge slope. I've got this one. I got this off Massdrop. You can get them on their Etsy page, I believe, but they're a little more expensive. But they pop up on Massdrop a few times a year. Orcas. It's got a cool little design, rubber feet, relief cuts. I've posted pictures before. That's the one I mainly use, but I needed one for a TKL, and I saw that Novel Keys had them. So if I had, it's not the highest quality, I will say. It gets the job done.
It's very basic. Yeah.
It is very basic. It's got kind of a clear coat on the front. You can kind of see off the shine, where on the back it does not. There's no relief cuts, so you do run into the risk of warping. But I don't think that wouldn't happen for a long time. And then the overall finish, it's just not 100% smooth. I'm not going to say this is the perfect end all be all, but it is only going to be used when I use my TKL, the KVD 8X. So, but what we were talking about is it's kind of a good blank slate one, because I'm going to get some rubber feet to protect my desk and desk mats, but is stripping off, just sanding down the clear coat and painting it, and then re-clear coating it, because it is kind of a cool little blank slate. So I might pick some things to match the board and the keycaps, and yeah, for the price, it's I'd say it's worth it.
Yeah, it's like $10, and it's kind of like you said, it's an open canvas. If you want to get creative with it, you could stain it a different color. You could re-clear coat it if you'd like. Pretty cool. Yeah. So it's like I said, I like wrist rests. If you like wrist rests and you're looking for some, or if you're wanting to like try a wrist rest, I think that's perfect. If you're like, okay, well, let's see what all the wrist rests things are about. If you are unaware, a wrist rest basically keeps your hand from doing this and straightens it out more. You are supposed to hover your hands, but especially if like people are gaming, you're not going to be doing that the whole time. So that's a big reason why I use it. And then I also got some mail over in Osiris land. We ordered on the Zeal sale. We ordered some stuff a few months back and got some more 78 gram Zelio V2s. Yeah. So I guess that kind of segues into my mail day. So I have a couple of things. As Chewy just mentioned, this is actually his bag of Zelio V2s. Unknowingly, I think Zeal split them up. I've got 100 for me, don't know why. I always order 100. I don't know why. I don't need them. I just always have 100. And then 70 for Chewy. And then I got 30 more Xylent 67 grams. These will be going in the orange 75 once I get that all figured out. And then I've been waiting on the Clavier. I think that's how you say his name. Don't know yet. Don't know for sure. I should probably ask him next time I talk to him. But I've been waiting on one of his lube stations from him. And then I realized, and we're actually a guy named CubeSite in our Discord let me know that 1UP was selling him, and he actually ordered some from 1UP. So I just went ahead and I was like, you know what? They only fit 30 switches. Is it bad to have two? Probably not. So I bought one in purple, which is one of my favorite colors. And that came pretty quick. So still waiting on the one from Belgium, but that one should be coming soon. But yeah, it's really cool. It's got place for the bottom, the top, and the stem, which is really nice when you're actually lubing, because you don't have to like have multiple different things all lined up. Everything can happen all on one little space, which makes it nice and clean. And then you can just all put the switch back together. You can take it apart and put it all back together in the same little space. So it's efficient for me. I will say, and Chewy and I were talking about this a little bit earlier, it is a little bit loose. So as I use this more, we'll see if that comes into play. I know the one like Chewy uses that's just a 3D printed one. It's not acrylic, is really tighter on the tolerances. So that way, he likes, if you've ever watched him stream, he'll pick it up and lube closer just to make sure things are finer, which with something like this, you can't do that just for the fact that it's loose. If you pick it up, the switches will fall out. But yeah, really excited about this. Going to lube up those 67 grams Xylents and get those ready for the orange 75.
There you go. So moving on along, the community.
Yeah, community.
The community is, obviously a big reason why a lot of people are drawn to keyboards is people talk. There are multiple Discords, Reddit, Geekhack, Keeb Talk, lots of places where people talk and people, kind of experience their own version of mechanical keyboards, whether it be through one of those or even in person. But we've seen a lot of growth in the last year. I myself got in, I guess, pretty heavily April of last year. Osiris, I know, got in probably a year before that.
Yeah, I've
been subbed to our mechanical keyboards for much longer than I actually, just to look at cool keyboards, but never really got into it until last year. But yeah, so what I wanted to do is just kind of run through this time last year, 2018. A lot has happened since, but a quick look back. Holy Pandas were $4 to $5,
which is crazy to think about now
per switch. So yeah, it's
insane,
pretty insane. Holy Pandas were the best switch. There was not a whole lot of argument there, at least on a cherry style switch. Holy Pandas were at the top of their game. And really quick, my camera's doing something goofy.
Yeah, that Holy Panda, I remember because this was probably, we went to our first meetup in November, I think.
October.
Yeah, and it was right before the Holy Panda resurgence happened, like the revolution, the remaking of the Holy Pandas, and that was when they were kind of like super peaking, and it was just really weird because they were almost like of legend for a lot of people who had never used them or had never even seen them in the flesh, Yeah,
it was definitely strange. I mean, at the end of the day, there was only about 10,000 out there that was the maximum number that even could. And, whether people got rid of their pandas, they could have tossed them, they could have broken. And then on top of all of that, clean Holy Pandas that have not been soldered a bunch of times were even harder to find. So, that switch was incredibly expensive to get in on. And that was kind of if you had a board with Holy Pandas straight to the top of the front page, it was a very, it was hard to get that kind of pinnacle of switch. And I remember at the first meetup we went to, a guy brought Holy Pandas and we're like, oh, we have to try this. And they were great. And then by the time the second meetup had happened, Holy Pandas had already come out. At least half of the board, or probably not half, but at least 10 or 12 boards, including one of my own, had Holy Pandas on it. So, or some type of Holy Panda. So, Zelios were still very much regarded as a fantastic switch. These are the V1s. I don't remember what round they were on, but like pre-round 11.
I think, it was pretty up there though.
9 or 10 probably. This was right before we talked about on our stream last week, Boxgate, box switch issues, the box stem problems. This was before that. This in June. This episode is coming out here in 2 days, so it's going to actually be July, but it still had yet to come out. That box switches were ruining certain keycaps. So everywhere on Reddit, box royals were still, very flashy and new, and box navies. Eric said many times, you just could not find a board. You could not go to a page on mechanical keyboards without finding box navies. Box
navies were like I know Chewy mentioned it in the stream. It was literally like you had to know exactly when Novel Keys was putting up the switches because they would be gone in like an hour or less. Mm-hmm. And there were vendors like KBD Fans had them on their page, but never in stock. Like no one could keep box navies in stock. So
yeah, I got lucky and was just looking at KBD Fans one day and saw they had box navies and bought them.
Yeah.
Because I was like, well, I have the opportunity. I'm gonna get in on it. So, what else is happening?
Yeah, so this was kind of a time for like GMK key sets were not selling for insane prices, and GMK key sets were not happening quite as regularly. Like group buys weren't happening quite as regularly as they are now. You weren't having 4 or 5 or 6 sets running at once. It was like 1, maybe 2. If it's a crazy time, 3. And the sets that were going out, like I remember even around the first meetup we went to, you had a set of Nautilus, which was a very highly sought after key set at the time. And even then it still wasn't selling for like an insane price. It's not like some of these other kits like Laser and Serica, which sell for like 2-3 times the price of the drop.
Group buy.
Yeah. So
this is when those group buys were going too.
Yeah.
That's around Serica happened around this time last year.
Godspeed, MT3 just started.
Yeah. Olivia had finished up a few months before this. So, Olivia didn't do as successful as what people, if it ran today, it would be probably 5 times more successful. So yeah, GMK caps were still there, but it was definitely like, it was kind of funny because it was like, I don't want to release my GMK keycap set yet because I don't want to run at the same time one other set's running. Mm-hmm. And that's not the case anymore.
Yeah. And then you didn't have like these, like TGR and Key Cult were still highly regarded and sought after in the community, but they weren't quite to the level they are at now, where it's like obviously the TGR boards, the last one, I believe it sold out. The Jane that they just ran sold out in like
this
12 seconds
carbon one
or something. It was like 12 seconds.
and they did 100 units of that too.
They did like, I think it was 50 of the last chain and it sold out in like 5 minutes. That still sounds like a short period of time. But when you think about that in terms of like 30 seconds or 15 seconds, whatever it was, to 5 minutes, that's a pretty long time difference, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like
that's casually going, oh, okay, it started. Let me just sit in here and casually enter my info, not smash your mouse as fast as humanly possible to try and get the board.
Yeah, that's like, you know, being like, oh, let me just microwave a Hot Pocket real quick and then I'll come back, you know, versus like sitting there spamming your F7 key if you have one, you know. trying to
layers, bro.
Trying to refresh as much as you can to try to get in on it. But yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, still, I mean, they were still very sought after, but they weren't reselling at these crazy prices yet.
I remember the days when you could get 910, because this was right around the time when 910 was coming out. Like the group buy had finished, and people were still selling them for like, you know, it was maybe like $200 above group buy price, whereas now it's like 2.5 times group buy price, and it's just insane.
Yeah, that's a bit much. So last but not least, big shakeup in the community, I think, was the tofu. Shakeup for a good reason. We had not seen the tofu at the time. There were a lot of 5-degree cases out and about. And there was the Tina. So those two 60% cases, while they were great, did not make as big of a splash as the tofu did. And so that was not a readily available item yet. They had not announced it. The closest thing you could get to that was a Clippa. And if you wanted that look, you had to get a Clippa.
Yeah.
So,
which were kind of easy to find, but not really. Like,
and they were expensive. If I bought a Clippa over the summer for $200, and you can now buy a Clippa at Group Buy. The one that recently ran about a month ago was $120. And what you're paying for is, you know, there are some design aesthetics to it, and there's anodization from Mechanisk is almost flawless. But you know, I had to take, that's the only time I've bought a board and taken a loss from a case, because the tofu came out and killed that market.
Yeah, it definitely did. And like the 5-degree was a good board, but it definitely did not do what the tofu did. The tofu just like came in and just was like, everyone else bow down to me in this price range.
Yeah. So, and we'll move on, kind of our next topics. So that was the state of the community. And this is things that helped push the community that have happened in the last year, which the release of the tofu. The tofu came in, blew the doors wide open. Some higher up individuals got them to review and said the anodization was great. And for, you know, $88, you have such a fantastic, simplistic look. It's a good way to get a clean look to your board. And yeah, it's, you know, it's still popular. I will, if someone says I want to get a 60% board and I'm kind of getting in the community, I will say, go get a tofu.
Yeah. Yeah. We were talking the other day about how I need to buy like another like hot swap board. And I was like, man, I could just buy a tofu. Like, it's just so solid. It's just like, I like to compare the tofu to like Chili's in the restaurant world.
Yep.
It's like right there. You know what you're getting.
Exactly what you're getting.
You're not going to be super impressed. You're not going to be like, oh my God, this is amazing. But you're going to go and you're going to be like, you know what? That was a good meal. I don't regret my decision.
Yeah, I don't know too many people who are running around going, I regret buying a tofu.
Yeah.
If you did, you just had an unfortunate experience with it, but sorry. Fantastic board. I have a Tofu Win keyless. It's a little different because it has an integrated plate. They released those a little bit later so they could release a Win keyless and HHKB layout. But those released with hot swap. So little segue. Hot swap.
Yep. Hot swap revolution.
Hot swap revolution. We've talked about it before. Hot swap came in, and now you no longer have to solder. You don't have to buy soldering equipment. You don't have to run the risk of potentially ruining something. I think if there's anything that has pushed the community further, I'd say hot swap has been, at least for entry level. People who are getting in right now, I'm almost jealous of because they can get a hot swap board.
Yeah, it made it to where the barrier to entry and that like fear, because, you know, if you're someone that's never soldered, you are not someone who's super crafty, but you want to have a custom mechanical keyboard, soldering the board is probably the most intimidating thing. And at the end of the day, that's the single most difficult portion of putting a keyboard together, other than attaining the money to purchase everything.
Yeah.
But having the hot swap available, especially on a board like the Tofu at an insane price, like the ability to combine all those things together, the reliability of KBD fans having things in stock, the design, the way that it looks, the way that it feels, plus having the hot swap, it just brought it all together. And then when you had hot swap start getting huge, you had all these other brands, and it became not just something that was like a niche. You had boards like the M60A, which ran like, I think it was the end of Q3 or early Q4 last year. Or was it
M60A?
Early?
It was early.
It might have been around this time last year.
It came out relative. It was like May, I think. So it actually, hot swap, it was known before kind of the summer of 2018. It was definitely known that hot swap was a thing, but it had not been mainstreamed yet.
Yeah. Well, there was boards that had, because I remember there was a time where a lot of the PCBs that you could buy some of them had the ability to have hot swap, but they didn't have the switches already integrated into the board. You had to buy them separately and solder them yourself. And then there was kind of like a shift in that where everyone was like, well, why don't we just make them with the KL sockets already on? And then obviously M60A did a lot because that was a super successful run for the first run, and obviously now the second run that should be coming out soon. But yeah, it was crazy. It was a crazy time, and it was super awesome to see that. And like Chewy said, I'm jealous for someone who's getting in, because you can get, you know, if I was looking at it now, back when I bought my Tada, I spent $100 on the Tada. I totally would have spent another $60, $70 to get like a Win keyless or HHKB Tofu with the integrated plate and get a hot swap board. Like, it's nuts.
Yeah. Being able to go and get that for, or even any Tofu, but though, you know, it's like 160, I think, for the Tofu with the integrated plate. That they have, Enjoy PBD has like they have some good key sets now. They've really upped their game with the key sets there, and that's something else that's happened is those sets, you know, 9009 and Muted have kind of been recreated in their own vision from Enjoy PBT, plus the black on white. So and they have now a white Tofu, so you can go get a white Tofu with a hot swap board and a plate and white keycaps, and have a lot of people love that black and white aesthetic, and having an all white board would be awesome. And I know for a fact, if this was 2 years ago and this happened, I know you, Osiris, would have been like, oh yeah, whiteboard, white on white, like let's do this. Like,
yeah, it would have been
like that would have been
awesome.
An easy slam dunk. But yeah, I think, you know, that nothing has really pushed the community further especially when it comes to newcomers, And a lot of people who are veterans in this community, a lot of people who have, many keyboards, and their keyboard numbers are in the double digits, are getting Tofus, or they went out and got a Tofu because it's a great board and it's cheap. So,
or other KBD fans boards that came around the same time, like the KBD 67.
67's great. I know Jay has nothing but great things to say about that board. The Tofu 65 case kind of helped a lot of people, or thought it, it had that extra weight, so it turned your Tada into a, not that the Tada is a bad board, but it turned it into a little more premium feel with the added weight. So it just, KBD fans has killed it the last year.
Yeah, especially in the starter game. Plus, they've started to run more group buys too. So it's been good. And then speaking of running group buys, another thing that happened is we've got more vendors that are running buys, that are getting buys out there, being able to get them to their audience. Novel Keys is basically run a key set at all times this year. Like they're just going one into another. And it's been like that for quite a while at this point. Dixie Mechs really blown up with what he's been doing, different key sets and whatnot. Modern Dolch last year started, I think, early Q4, late Q3,
either late Q3 or early Q4.
Krellbit at Switch Mod starting to run different buys. Plus, he's doing great things for the lubing community. Zeal, obviously, with the V2s and running boards, running high end boards. Yeah, and then Cannon Keys has been, a little bit smaller, but they ran some buys back then. They had GMK DMG ran near the end of last year on Cannon Keys. Plus, they've had some other things. They had the 1800 board that they ran for a while.
That Waves, Satisfaction 75, the Brutal 60.
I was thinking of the Key Company, which is another one.
The Key Company. Yeah, that's another one. So the Key Company, I was about to say, I was like, I don't think the TKC is 1800, but maybe I could be wrong. But the Key Company, they did great things. So competition is great. And the last, definitely not the least, but Originative, they do awesome stuff for GMK keycaps because they ensure that it's going to go past, they're going to hit MOQ. They'll buy the rest out, and then you can go buy GMK sets on Originative, which is fantastic. Which a lot of these companies are North American companies, but we seeing this kind of competition is just good because now there are more options. Now there's enough people in the community that there's no longer this issue of, okay, only one vendor can run one keycap group buy at a time. Now that there's options, that creates the issue where you're like, okay, well, now I need to decide what I want. And it's better to decide what you want than go, well, this group buy is going this time, so I guess I'm not getting anything, which your wallet thanks you. But when it comes to growing the community and stuff, options are always better.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely nice. Plus, it's really good for the designers of different boards and keycap sets to be able to kind of take a weight off their shoulders in terms of running the buy and running through things like handling all the packaging and processing, putting that out to someone like Novel Keys or Dixie Mech or Switch Mod, where they will handle it all and they have the infrastructure to do that. It makes it a lot easier on the designers to just do the design and make sure the keycap set itself looks good and not worry about the rest of it, which is super, super nice and has been super helpful for a lot of designers.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of people, the popularity of Top Clack continuing to rise and the meteoric rise to fame that is Nathan Kim. These brought in a lot of new people. They're popular streamers and YouTube content creators, as well as Man of Interest. He was obviously a part of Top Clack, and then he branched split off. But that's still, you can definitely shout out to him as well. Those guys really did help kind of bring some faces to the community and talking about it, bringing information forward, getting people interested in it. I've watched a lot of those guys. Anthony 001 Anthony, shout out to him as well. Really kind of making it more of a thing of going, okay, well, building keyboards, this is a thing. And he's, all these guys make sure to be very, they're very inviting to new people and helpful. And I mean, that's how I was able to get into the community, was through Anthony and then watching a lot of Top Clack. So there's just, all these different outlets where new people could go watch stuff and kind of take in content and be able to learn from it and be a part of the community. And then that's why they have like all these Discords where that's, very inviting and nice people. And, they've definitely helped drive the train of this community. So,
yeah. And one thing we were talking about with Quakems from Top Clack last week was kind of how, we're both like, it's just insane to look at the growth of Nathan Kim, especially how short of a period of time he really exploded, especially for the hobby. And we're talking about how, he's someone that really was able to get people outside of the community in, with his streams and with his content. It's done wonderful things for the community, and inherently that allows other creators like us or Top Clack or Huey to grow as well, because you've got all these people who are hungry for information. They're hungry for entertainment within the hobby that they love. So it's really cool. And I think that they're doing great things for the community.
Yeah. So it's just, it's a good, people want as much out there as possible, like you said. And, a good starting point to me is him when it comes to builds and stuff like that, and seeing how you can do it. If you do it right and you do it well, then you will have a great experience building your keyboard.
Yeah. And the next thing kind of was, we alluded to this a little bit, that Holy Panda Revolution. It really did. It did a lot. It made what was arguably the best Switch on the market at the time more accessible to people, and cheaper. And then there was also the Zelio V2 that happened right around the same time. And all the V2 variants, whether it's Xylence or whatnot, those were all coming out right around the same time. Actually, I think it was really only a couple weeks before the
there was Pandas. Not a whole lot of that timing was very fun. As a consumer, it was great.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like, I remember that time from like early November to the end of the year was like insane for the Switches that were coming out and all the different versions. You had Creams came out, I think, all the way back then. Creams, you had Zelio V2s, you had the Jesus Pandas, and then like a couple weeks later, Novel Keys came out and we're like, we're doing our own too. We got the Yoks going. So it was
a good time to be a consumer.
Yeah. If you liked tactile Switches, that was the 3 months of time that you wanted to be in this hobby.
So, so all those things have happened. They're all great. All these things really helped the community. So what else can happen? Like we are obviously speculating, but what else can happen to help kind of move along in our community? We don't know what the next big thing is. But what else do you think can help?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing, and we talk about this specific vendor so much just because it doesn't really feel like there's someone there to rival them. And that's KBD fans. It doesn't feel like there's someone that can offer everything that they can offer to someone who's new to the community, someone who is just looking for something quick. It doesn't feel like there's really someone like that. I know, I think, KBD fans is starting to put out boards as well with the NK65 group buy that they're running currently. And I
mean Novel Keys.
sorry, yeah, Novel Keys.
Yeah.
Thank you. But Novel Keys is running the NK65 right now, and I know that they're trying to do more stuff like that. And I think that if as far as a North American vendor, I feel like they are probably in the best position to be able to offer more things like that for people and offer something. But we really need someone that rivals KBD fans in the affordable market to get people in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because competition is what is going to help more than anything. With how much business KBD fans gets, that's next time they can offer cheaper prices because they're in China and there's just its factories over there are easier to get to and all of that, but there isn't really anyone rivaling them in that market right now that can do as extensive as what we are talking about. There are definitely, we did mention earlier, but One Up Keyboards is another great vendor, and they sell a lot of good stuff on there. But yeah, getting something like that to push them, if someone comes in and starts trying to, potentially not in any like actual, aggressive way, but kind of push KBD fans to go, hey, you need to step your game up. That's how we as consumers are going to get better things. We kind of compare it to, a lot of people are in the computer, the PC gaming world and just custom computers as well. And, for a while, Intel didn't get much better. Their jumps weren't bigger because AMD wasn't doing anything. And then AMD releases Ryzen. And then all of a sudden, Intel got better because there was competition on the market at that point. And everyone wins at that point because as consumers, we got to get better things. So I'm really hoping to see something rival KBD fans. And then something kind of different from KBD fans, but similar, is kind of a mid to high tier board competition. So like TX Keyboards used to have a lot of stuff in stock, and they have a store now, which is fantastic. But I would love to see something where you have that kind of mid to higher end tier board that is in stock that you can buy now, whether or not, if they bought 50 boards to have in stock, those might sell out almost immediately. But I think the community is ready for and can handle being able to have a KBD fans for that mid to higher end thing. And KBD fans is trying to dip their feet in it with, stuff like the 8X, the Polaris, things that are getting better. But I think having something like that where it's, I've got this store and it's open and you can buy this stuff, and yeah, it's expensive, but we need that. I think that will help. Yeah,
I think if they, like, one thing that I think would be really cool is if they partnered with like a popular designer in the community. We'll use, and like TGR, for example, like if they had a TGR/KBD fans board that was just on their site regularly and was like $400, like $350 to $400, I think it would do really, really well. It would be a great place for someone who's like, man, I really want a new keyboard, but I don't want to wait. And I want something that's nicer than a Tofu, but I don't want to, spend $800 on Mech Market. It gives you something that's right in the middle, that's super high quality and can offer different things and that the community is really wanting right now. I think it would be really cool, because you could offer different things like gasket mount, half plate options. KBD fans could offer different plate options, like in terms of materials. They could offer a polycarb, a brass, or an aluminum or steel plate. Because they have the liquidity to do things like that. So it'd be really cool to see that.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing, we don't need someone to rival KBD fans, maybe for that higher end. But yeah, like you said, maybe KBD fans just ups their game in that department. So I think the community is ready for it. I think once you kind of get in, there are a lot of people that will get in, buy a Tofu and be happy. Props to them for having self-control. For those of us who don't have self-control, if you buy a tofu and you're kind of going, okay, what I want something a little nicer. Like I want this to be my work board, that tofu, but I want something nice for at home. And being able to look at KVD fans and get something, $400 range where you're getting gaskets and weights like that would just be killer. Absolutely. So, the next big thing, I think the world is ready for some new keycap profiles.
Yeah. Well, and I think not just that, I think, we've got a lot of different keycap profiles that haven't really been experimented a lot with, like CAT and MT3 and DSS, I believe is what it's called. DSS. Yeah. Those three. I think more so is we need the keycap profiles outside of GMK to get quicker and less expensive. That's my biggest thing is like, personally, I like SA and I want to have more SA sets, but it's hard for me to spend almost double the price of what a GMK set would be and then wait 2 to 3 times as long.
Yep.
It's just like SA Laser just ran like a couple weeks ago. The set was more expensive by a significant margin than GMK Laser, and you weren't going to get it until I believe it was December was the expected date. And that's if nothing goes wrong. So like, and that's keycap buy started at the beginning of May. So that's like a 7-month plus time span on a keycap set. I understand, things take different time periods and that manufacturing takes some time, but it'd be awesome to see another keycap manufacturer come out and be like, all right, I can get this bomb set in a cool profile and I can get it back in a 16-week time frame. We don't need it to be faster than GMK. I just want it to be the same rate.
So, and then that also lets designers, that helps because there's more options out there. If you don't want to see something in GMK, if you want your design, your color combination of keycaps, you have more options other than GMK, because now GMK is starting to get pushed back. Mm-hmm. We're starting to see longer group buys because companies are now like buying the slot without even knowing exactly what they're going to run. They just go, listen, I've got the slot reserved. Now let's see what we're going to do. And then we'll use that slot. And then, they're bought out for the rest of the year. There are keycap group buys that are, interest checks are going, yep, we've made it out of interest check. It's going to be January 2020. And
yeah, because like
Master, and then that's when it goes for life for buying, not even making it. So keycap sets are going into interest check later this year, not going to be coming out until early next year.
Yeah, because I think all the way back in like February, Mass Drop already had all of their, or Drop now already had all of their keycap runs and slots purchased throughout 2019.
Yeah.
Like they already have the roadmap, and I think Novel Keys has already got all theirs set up and ready to go. Because basically like what you said happens is it's kind of interesting how it works too, because it's almost like, these vendors, they go out, they buy the slot from GMK, and then they're like, all right, now it's time to go shopping on Geek Hack interest check forums and just figure out which guy we want to hit up to run their set.
Yep.
So,
but other than that, I think the next big thing, we've talked about having vendors create boards. That would be great. Keycap profiles, switches. We are in a great spot for switches right now. Zelios, the ink switches have made a huge splash. The cream switches are very sought after at the moment. Holy Pandas are accessible. Silent switches are very accessible. We're kind of living the dream. Now we just need the next thing. We need the next thing to push switches even further. We've got some cool. There's some cool stuff coming out with the Silo switch. We'll see how that goes, but where do we go switches wise? That's the next. We can push boards further. We can push key sets further. The last thing, and we've already got the hot swap and custom PCB. So switches is kind of the next thing to look at.
Yeah, and I think It's unfortunate. We've talked about this multiple times, but the T1 leaving us was something that was going to do great things for the community. But rest in peace.
It happens.
It happens. But I think if there was a Switch that fit that same mold of inexpensive, high tactility, solid tolerances, and readily available, I think it would really do a lot for the community. I think that it would get people who are just starting to maybe more so understand the difference between like their cherry browns that they're used to and their ducky board. It would get them to understand the difference between that and like what a high-end Switch can offer you, like a Zelio V2 or a Holy Panda.
And what stinks is that Switch exists. It's called the Box Royal, but people don't like box Switches.
It's true. It's true.
Maybe one day.
Maybe someone will release like a 25-page article where they go through all of that. They purchase like thousands upon thousands of box Switches and just do tolerance tests on all of them and then confirm that they no longer hurt keycaps.
Maybe one day.
Maybe.
Cruciformer. That's helping.
It is.
So things that could hurt the community. So these are just some stuff we wrote down that are either kind of exist, and if they keep going or they keep trending in the same direction that they're going, will not be good for the community and could potentially drive people away. That's not anything that we want. So starting off, Mech Market. Mech Market prices and aftermarket prices of boards that have a name on them that are high quality, but because they have a name and a logo on them are now worth triple what they are. We have people buying these boards just to flip them, which is severely hurting. If you're someone who honestly just wants to get a TGR Jane V2 and you've got, 10 people who got faster internet who run in there and, swipe it up. And then now your best bet, you had the money for it at group buy, but because these people are trying to make money, you now have to save up 3 times what you have just to be able to buy that board. So
yeah, I think
that hurts.
It's unfortunate because it's kind of the nature of a growing community and a niche hobby, is that aftermarket pricing is just going to be insane on certain products. It's going to happen. And the thing that you really want and the thing that you would hope is to go down is the scalpers and the people who are just trying to resell, the resellers, like in the clothing community with like Supreme and stuff like that. There are people who literally just, all they do, their job is just to sit there and purchase things and then resell them for 300% of the price that they bought it for. Hopefully that it doesn't get to a point where that is a legitimate route to making money. You want, we're still small enough that we want everyone who purchased something to really enjoy it and get the full experience and not have to pay a super inflated price. Obviously, things that come out that are worth it, like if something comes out and it's better than what the price, like if it's justified, like I don't think anyone should be losing money on their board when they resell it. If it's a good board and it's got a high, people want it. Obviously, you shouldn't lose money. It's not like the car industry where it gets super devalued when you purchase it. But the thing is when it's like 4 or 5 times the price just cause.
Yeah.
So
outside of that, overdue group buys. They're not fun. We are both part of Overdue Group Buys.
You're a part of a few more than I am, but
I know. I try not to talk about it to remind myself that there are a few group buys that I am a part of that have not delivered any product to my house. So these things are not great. Hopefully, I understand that there are reasons that there are certain companies that do better group buys than others. And why their boards are more sought after.
Yeah, I think this is something that as vendors get bigger and handle more boards and do more, it's going to start to go away. Hopefully, the overdue group buys, because I think it will get to a point where running a group buy outside of a vendor, especially an open group buy, like a unlimited group buy outside of a vendor, is just going to be like, what are you doing? Because having that vendor make sure things stay on track, making sure that there's money there to pay the people who are making the board, and making sure that things are going to come out when they're supposed to come out. And if it doesn't, they have people to make sure that that information gets put out. Like we were talking, one of the buys that Chewy's in, they didn't announce that it was going to get delayed until the day that the board was supposed to ship. Like things like that. It's like, you obviously knew further back from that things weren't going well. Like you waited until the day that they were supposed to start shipping to be like, oh yeah, by the way, it's delayed. So I think as the community gets bigger, there's going to be more like purchaser friendly things happening on group buys, and making sure that people's money is in a safer place and it's more guaranteed, rather than right now. We're not 100% in the wild west, but it's still kind of like, it's just like, yeah, here you go. Here's my money. I hope you give me what you promised.
Yeah. We talked about one of our episodes about getting into group buys and stuff like that, and how there are risks going in with one that is something that, if you're going in on a group buy with someone that is not like a company, but it's just some guy working out of his garage, sometimes they work great. Sometimes you are stuck waiting, and hopefully not done with their, hopefully they don't just take off with your money. So,
yeah.
Sorry, did you want anything else to?
Good. I'm good.
But my purchase birthday is coming up in the next couple days
Of
the M0110. So, hooray! So, other than that,
still don't know what it's going to look like.
Yeah, we talked about this with the longer GMK keycap set group buys. So the further they are out, it's not really a great thing. We won't touch too much more on it, but as a designer, it's not great because you can go, hey, I designed this keycap set, and someone goes, oh, cool, I'll run it in 9 months, and then 9 months after that, we're going to have to do color sampling. So a year and a half, that's not great. And then the higher tier switches growing in price. I don't think that's something that will happen, but if Zeal decided he wanted to do a $2 to $3 increase across his switch packs, that wouldn't be good.
Yeah,
Zeal, if you're listening, don't do that, please.
or if the dreaded joke that we always say to our buddy and mod Moon, of if he just decides that he doesn't want to actually release the Xeno and just runs off with everyone's money and then just shuts down Zeal PC, and then all of a sudden Zeal V2 switches are like $7 a switch.
Yep.
That could happen. It won't.
We hope for the best for it. We hope that no company goes out.
Yeah, we don't want to shut upon anyone. We don't want them to.
No, that would ruin the community. I mean, it would take one company to fall to put a community at risk of imploding. So,
yeah.
But anyway, sorry, I cut you off.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say it would be hard, like if a vendor like Novel Keys, were like KBD fans, I feel like was in a situation where it was like rocky there for a second with the Zeal stuff.
Thin ice with a lot of.
If that would have shut down, that would have. it would have made a massive dent in the community.
I feel like it would have pushed the community to more of the high-end community. The tofus would still be floating around, but we would not see the lower end. Or if that happened, that might push people to start making lower end boards. Who knows? But I feel like for some time, it would be much more focus on the high end community.
Mm-hmm.
So, but some final thoughts. I love that GMK caps, we're getting so many. I love that multiple vendors are able to offer multiple caps. The amount of vendors is great. With so many options now, it's just such a neat thing to be able to go, oh, you got Candy Keys and Originative and Novel Keys and One Up and what's the other big one that I'm missing? Dixie Mech. It's like, oh, I've got all these options of who to go to and for different things, and that's super pro consumer.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think we're at a time where we can run multiple and not have an issue. I think when we get into like I feel like we're not at the point where like you can run a ton. Like I think specifically if like there's a mid to high end board start getting a lot more popular and there's a lot more group buys for those, and they're a lot more open. Like I don't know how, if there were like 3 different versions of Rama, like say there were 3 different companies at that same level, all running mid to high end boards at the same time. I feel like that could kind of get into like a gray area of maybe not being as successful, but keycaps are definitely, they're going insane right now. The fact that Oblivion ended at like almost 3,000 base sets between the 3 different base sets is insane. Like Oblivion popped off the last like 3 days. It was ridiculous. And then Olive by Olivia, I think just hit 1,000 or was just under. I can't remember. I remember seeing it at like around 750 the last day. So it's just crazy to think that multiple sets can run at the same time and still have that level of sales.
Yeah. And then the other thing, I think we forgot to mention this, the splitting up of sets in GMK while taking the numpad out has been huge.
It's made them super freaking available.
Available. As most boards, there are not a lot of boards with numpads, so we don't need numpads.
Yeah.
So I just, that alone has been, you can get GMK Hamon, group buy was $100. Minimal was $100.
Striker
and Nines were both very inexpensive. These boards are just becoming so much more, or these keycaps are becoming so much more affordable, because now if you want the full layouts, if you have your CP layouts or your 1800 style layouts with a numpad, that's great, and you still have the option. But for people who, I would say there are significantly more people not needing the numpad than they are. I've got dozens of numpad keys sitting in my closet that have never been mounted on anything. So
yeah, it's kind of funny when you look at like, I've used Hyperfuse for a long time on my my Orange 75, and I just recently took it off the Orange 75 and put it back in the tray, and like you see all the shine on the like alphas, and then you look over at the numpad and it's just perfect. I'm like, yep, it's never come out of the case. So
but other than that, growth is great. We want to see this community get huge, because you can handle that many group buys.
Yeah, I think there's one other thing that we didn't mention that I think is doing a lot for the community or getting people involved into it is the rise of like consumer boards also being like a smaller form factor. So you have like the Ducky 1-2 Mini being a super popular board, as well as like the GMMK having the 60% as well as it being hot swap, has made that interest from people who are in like the gamer market come over and be more like, ooh, what is that, when they see these pictures of these super nice boards on Reddit, and get involved in the community in a way that they wouldn't before. So
yeah, absolutely. So moving on, that is our topic for today. We've got a quick couple announcements. Before we get into that, would you like to do a sponsor shout out?
Sure would. Speaking of some amazing vendors that support us, and so we give them a little bit of a shout out. Switchmod.net. You can use code Mechs on Deck, or you can just go to switchmod.net/Mechs on Deck, and you can get 4% off what they've got in stock. Does not work for group buys, so you can't get that crazy looking GMK set. I can't remember how to say it. It's like 17,000 different colors, but you can't get that at 4% off. But you can get some 3203, some 205 grade 0, some 3204, even some stickers, some other stuff. Krellbit's always got stuff in stock and rotating. So get your lube, get your stickers, get your Eyster keycaps. Use code Mechs on Deck. 4% off. Helps you, helps us. Also, Zap cables. They're our homies. We did a partnership with them. They're still helping us out. We definitely appreciate everyone that got in on the code Mechs on Deck for 10% off DIY kits. I think Chewy's got a little bit of announcement in regards to that video.
Oh, so if you figured it out, we were doing a giveaway. John from Zap built a rainbow cable, and we did a giveaway. We randomized it earlier today, and drum roll. I'm not going to actually hit a drum because that would piss everybody off. Cube Space Site on YouTube. CubeSite has been in our Discord. Congratulations. We are going to, whenever you watch this, hit us up in the Discord. I know you're in our Discord, and we'll get that to you. Congratulations, and thank you, Zap Cables, for helping us out with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Another announcement. If you were tuning into our stream last week, you'll know a little bit about this, but for the month of July, we are going through keycap sets with designers every week. Every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Central, we're going to have a different keycap designer where we're going to talk to them about design, the process, running the buy, just how everything works in regards to getting a keycap set from an idea to a render to making it all happen. I know we're both really excited about this. We're excited to kind of pick their brains, figure out the differences, figure out what kind of processes they go through, and just overall get a better knowledge and understanding of what it takes to run a keycap set at this current time.
Yeah. So on the list, we've got famed GMK Olivia and GMK Olive keycap designer Olivia.
Oof.
Very excited about that one. Very excited about all of these. I don't know why, but Neflock is going to be coming in talking about GMK Metropolis. We've got Dixie Mech talking about GMK 8008. I need to look up this person's name because I forget it. Mentorly with SA Bliss, which is actually going live here in the next few days. And we still have one more mystery guest.
Yeah, so yet to be announced, but
should be fun. But yeah, so we got those coming in to talk to us on stream. Yeah, very, very excited.
If you've got questions you want us to ask them, if there is something that you want to know about keycap sets, keycap design, come join us in the Discord and ask your question. We'll make a role or a chat where people can submit questions that they would like us to ask, and then we can, filter through them and maybe ask a couple on each stream. So it'll be a good time for everyone to kind of ask something that they've wanted to know about a specific keycap set or about the process. So yeah, we're excited.
Yeah. Well, thanks again. I've hit my word limit on the day. Congratulations to CubeSite for the cable. Make sure to hit us up. Thanks again, as always. Be sure to follow us on Twitch on the link below. Make sure to subscribe to us here on our channel. Come join us on the Discord. We talk quite a bit all day long about keyboards. Once again, shout out switchmod.net, Zap Cables. Thank you for joining us. And we will see you tomorrow for our July keycap streams.
Bye now.